This is a tutorial on how to do time value of money calculations using a Hewlett-Packard 10B business or financial calculator. This is a calculator that can be used in your basic corporate finance classes at the undergraduate or graduate level. Alright, the first thing we're going to do with this calculator is turn it on. So hit the clear button, under that says on, to display our zeros. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is set up the calculator. There's a couple things we need to do to change the factory default settings. The first thing is to change the number of decimal places that are displayed. We'll be working with a lot of percentages in corporate finance classes. So we need to show at least 2 decimal places so we're not rounding off to the nearest whole decimal. Alright, the way to do that is we're going to use this shift button, the green shift button. You can see that above all the other buttons there is either numbers or letters in green, and we need to use the green shift button to use those. So we're going to hit shift, and then we're going to hit the equal button, because above that it says DISP, which is short for display. So it says how many decimals do we want to display in our calculator, and then we hit the number of decimals we want. So in this case we want 4, so we hit 4 decimal places. Now the other factory setting on the calculator is the number of compounding periods per year, and the default setting is set to 12. I would recommend changing that to 1, and as we get into compounding more frequently than annually, we'll change the number of periods and the interest rate. So to change the compounding periods per year to 1, we're going to hit 1 and then shift, and up at the top row the PMT or payment button. So you can see above that button it says P/YR, or periods per year. So we hit that and you see it displays now 1 period per year. Alright. So to do time value of money calculations, for most of them we're going to use the 5 main time value of money buttons on the top row. N is number of periods. I/YR is the interest rate per year, and we're going to enter that number in as a whole number. The calculator knows to convert it to a decimal. PV is present value. PMT again is payment, and FV is future value. So again we're going to use those 5 main time value of money buttons for most of our calculations. Now a couple of things to note, that whenever you enter a number in these 5 buttons, one of these 5 buttons or all of them, the calculator stores that number until you either overwrite it with another number or clear out the financial buttons. So we need to be careful of that. And also it doesn't matter which order you enter the numbers in the buttons, but I'll go from left to right just to be consistent. Alright, let's look at a basic example. Suppose we want to see how much a $100 deposit would grow in 2 years at 5% interest. Alright, so we've got our number of periods is 2, our interest rate is 5, our present value is 100, and we're going to solve for future value. So we hit 2 in, 5 as our I/YR, our interest rate, $100 for our payment, or present value, excuse me. Now again, we don't have a payment, but let's go ahead and put 0 in there anyway, because again the calculator stores any numbers that we've entered previously. So I would recommend always putting in a number, even if it's 0, in 4 of the 5 time value of money buttons. So to solve for our future value, all we do is hit future value and see that our answer is $110.25. Now notice that that's negative. The calculator regards cash flows as inflows and outflows. Since we put $100 in as a positive, we'll take out $110.25 as an outflow or a negative. So you can just ignore the negative sign for now. Now to clear the display, to clear all the time value of money buttons, we're going to hit the shift and the input, because you see above that it says clear all. Right? So that removes all the numbers we've put in our time value of money buttons. Now, let's do another example. Say we're looking for how many years it will take $100 to grow to $500 at a 10% interest rate. So in this example, we're going to solve for n. Alright, so let's put our interest rate in is 10. Our present value is 100, and our future value is 500. But note that if you're putting in, anytime you're putting in two of the three payment, present value, or future value buttons, you need to make one of them negative, or else you'll get either an error message or the wrong answer. So say if we put in both the present value and future value in as positive, you would get an error message. I would recommend always putting the present value in as negative. So to do that, we're going to hit 100, and then we're going to hit the plus/minus sign to change that to negative 100, and then hit the present value button. Again, we don't have a payment, so we'll put in 0 as payment, and we want to see how much that $100 grows to 500, how long it takes. So we hit 500 future value. Now to solve for the number of periods, hit N, and you can see it's going to take 16.88 or almost 17 years for that $100 to grow to $500. Now let's go the other way. Let's say we want to leave our money in for 10 years, and we want to see what interest rate it would take for our $100 to grow to 500. Now we've already entered the numbers in the present value and future value buttons, so we can just leave them. So we want to see for 10 years how long it would take, so we'd hit 10 and the number of periods, and then we just hit the interest rate button to see that that account would have to earn 17.46% interest for our $100 to grow to 500 in 10 years. Not very realistic these days, of course. Now that interest rate is also known by other names. It's also known as the growth rate, or the opportunity cost, or discount rate, or required rate of return, and so on. So anytime you hear the term rate, then you know that's the interest rate. Now another type of calculation that we'll be doing on our Hewlett-Packard 10B calculator is annuities. An annuity is an equal stream of payments or cash flows. For example, your car loan or a fixed mortgage is an example of an annuity because the payments are equal every month. Now there are two types of annuities we need to discuss. Ordinary annuities, which are the ones that happen most frequently, thus the term ordinary, are when cash flows occur at the end of the period, or payments occur at the end of the period. The other type is an annuity due, where the cash flows occur at the beginning of the period. So we need to adjust the calculator to recognize the two different types. Now your calculator's default setting is for an ordinary annuity. So as it is now, we don't have to do anything to calculate an ordinary annuity. So here's an example. Say we're going to put $100 in a year for 5 years into an account that earns 8% a year, and we're going to calculate the future value of that. Alright, so our N is 5, so we hit 5N. Interest rate is 8, so 8I/YR. Now we don't have a present value, don't have any amount in the account currently, so we're going to go ahead and hit 0 present value. And $100 is our payment, so $100 PMT, and we solve for FV, or future value. You can see that amount is $586.66. Now again, that was an ordinary annuity. Now let's say if we want to change the example to an annuity due, where the $100 cash flow occurs at the beginning of the period. What we need to do is hit the shift button and then 0. So you can see above the 0 it says BEG/N, so beginning or end. And after we do that, you see that on the calculator it's displayed begin. So it knows to recognize the numbers we put in as an annuity due. So again, we've got $100 per year for 5 years, so 5 is our N, 8 is our interest, 0 is our present value, 100 is our payment, and when we solve for future value, we get 633.59. Now note that the future value of an ordinary or an annuity due will always be higher than the future value of an ordinary annuity. Now most calculations again have end of the year cash flows, so let's go ahead and change that back before we forget. So go ahead and hit Shift and 0, and you can see the begin is taken off, and we're back to doing ordinary annuities. All right. This concludes part 1 of the time value of money tutorial using the Hewlett-Packard 10B calculator.